What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to my review of Devil May Cry 5. For transparency purposes, I'm going to give you my history with Devil May Cry, the franchise. Now, I don't have an overall knowledge of the entire game, all of the games. I have only played Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition and the reboot that was in 2013 DMC. Now, I actually am in the minority on believing that DMC was actually a very good game and that it was just too Hollywood for those who like their original Dante and, you know, their Japanese style. So I'm coming to this game slightly skeptical. I didn't know what to expect. Truly, I did some lore research to understand like what the story actually was. A lot of people said that the story doesn't really matter in Devil May Cry, but there's actually some good mythology in this universe, in the DMC universe. So I was doing some research back then, and what's going on with the characters is actually rather intriguing with Dante and Virgil and his battle, and all of that was good stuff. Now, the timeline of Devil May Cry has a lot of people up in arms because, you know, this game's supposed to be the quote-unquote end of the Sons of Sparta arc, as quoted from the director himself. He's the one who sat there and said that this was going to end it. The Sons of Sparta arc will come to a conclusion with Devil May Cry 5. It's going to end it all. Before this game, Devil May Cry 2 was supposed to be the definitive ending of Devil May Cry. But that has been retconned. That is no longer the definitive ending, obviously. But that's not the only thing. Devil May Cry 4 is also now set after Devil May Cry 2. So it starts with 3, 1, 2, 4, 5. So that's exactly how that goes. Devil May Cry 3 seems to be a lot of people's favorites, but that was before this game came out. Now, this one is about to be everyone's favorites because let me tell you guys, as an outsider coming in, Devil May Cry 5 is a fantastic, I mean fantastic video game in 2019. The year is still early, but let me tell you, I believe this is game of the year so far. I mean, Resident Evil 2 is a strong contender, and Kingdom Hearts 3, which I have personally yet to get to, I believe is also another contender. So we got 3 very strong games in the first 3 months, the first trimester of this year is finally, like, we have these amazing games. But enough of all of that. Let me tell you about Devil May Cry 5 because that's why we're here, and I want to talk about it. I had to talk about this game because while I feel that it's going to be a success, I don't think enough people are going to come into this game willing and have this open mind that you really need, because a lot of people probably believe that you need to play the first 4 games, or at least 2 out of the 4, maybe half of the franchise. You need knowledge, right? No, you don't. As I said, I jumped into this game only having played Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition and the DMC reboot. Those games don't connect, so I have no idea what's going on with the story. But this game, it doesn't matter because the story isn't the game's biggest plus. The biggest plus is the gameplay, the smoothness of the sword slashing and the way it feels just so fluid, the fluidity of being able to fire your gun rapidly and then follow it up with your Devil Breaker arm if you're playing as Nero, of course. And the fact that we have 3 characters that you play as and they have 3 very different fighting styles. You would think that Nero and Dante would have pretty much the exact same style since they both use guns and swords. No, they play very differently. My personal favorite to play as was Nero. Dante, he can use swords and he has kicks, punches, freaking nunchucks, a lance. He has a bunch of different weapons at his arsenal. He is the legendary devil hunter after all. And you get to play as V, who I'll tell you later why he isn't my personal favorite character, But he's the guy that fights from a distance. He sits back and he uses his two minions, Griffin and Shadow, and they fight the enemies for V. All right. So there's three different styles of gameplay, and they all work. And while personally I didn't really enjoy playing as V, I only had to truly play as V. I was only forced to play as him maybe 3 or 4 times, because there's times where you get to choose who you want to play as. There's a couple missions where you get to choose, and my go-to guy was Nero. And you know, Nero's my go-to. I know a lot of people's go-to is going to be Dante, because this is kind of his franchise, or at least it was, and we're going to get to that later. But the gameplay in Devil May Cry 5 is the exact reason why anyone should buy it. What you want to do is get combos that pretty much just are continuous, and they keep going and going and going. And you want to not get hit in the middle of that combos, that way you can get up your rank. And the highest rank you can get is triple S. I personally was not able to get triple S. I got to double S a few times, got to S a lot of times, but my skill level just isn't high enough, even with the difficulty turned down, to get a triple S rank. Jumping into this game, also, it doesn't like try to punish you. You could play the game on normal just fine. The only reason why I decided to turn the difficulty down was because I had a limited time with the game, as it was being rented. I had a limited time with the game, and I wanted to beat it as fast as possible. So how do you beat it as fast as possible? You turn the difficulty down. But from what I'm hearing and what I briefly played on in the normal difficulty, it's not a hard game. And you will unlock the hard mode when you finish the game, either on human or devil hunter mode. So those are the easy and normal modes, and then you unlock the, I don't remember what it's called at the moment, sorry, but you unlock the hardest mode in the game, and that's the one that's supposed to be punishing. That's the one that's supposed to be on some Dark Souls triple S style that you ain't never seen, at least based on what I hear from that level. So Devil May Cry 5 gets a A++ in the gameplay category. There's a new mode that's coming, free DLC, the Bloody Palace mode. That's going to be coming soon. That's going to be very interesting for the longtime fans, but as a newcomer, it doesn't really interest me. I'm interested in more story DLC, preferably more character DLC. Now, the overall story of Devil May Cry, it's almost nonsensical. Like, the stuff just kind of happens, but you know, you don't play games like this for the story. You may play it for the characters, because the characters are actually very engaging, and you know, you get to know the characters and their personalities rub off on you, and you just enjoy spending time with them, and while you're feeling like a badass. And that's the whole point of Devil May Cry, is to feel like a badass, and it makes you feel that way. So it succeeds in what it wants to do. The story in itself doesn't really matter, though, as I said earlier, there is some good lore here as far as the background and what happened with Dante and his family, and why him and Virgil kind of hate each other. So that's all good stuff. That's the backdrop to the story. But the actual plot line in this game, it's just kind of whatever. It's just bland. It's not something that's really worth mentioning to anyone. What is worth mentioning is the characters themselves, because these characters are awesome for the most part. Now, I'm going to go down the list of my personal favorite characters. I'm going to start with number 1, and then I'm going to work my way to my least favorite. So I'm going to start off with Nero. Nero steals the show in this game, and I'm not going to give any spoilers on this. It's spoiler free. Nero steals the show, and he proves why this franchise is now his. It's now his. You know, after Devil May Cry 4, a lot of people was, you know, crying foul and how it was Dante's franchise, and who is this Nero kid that shows up? He's just a wannabe Dante. And they do have a lot of similar traits in their personality. But Nero, as the new protagonist, fits quite well. I don't understand what the problem was when he came in with the EMC4, why people didn't take to him as much as I believe they're going to take to him now. I don't believe you could play this game and not say that it isn't Nero's franchise. Like, you have to understand now that Devil May Cry doesn't belong to Dante anymore, it belongs to Nero. And if they decide to continue it, I don't believe they will, nor do I believe they should. I believe, as the director said, this should be the end of the Sons of Sparta. That should be the end of it. But if they ever want it to continue, the way the story progresses and what happens with Nero, he's fit for the role. He's absolutely perfect for it. He has the smart assery that Dante had. He has a cool look to him, and by the end of the game, you realize that he's the strongest. He's the strongest. Like I said, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but Nero is the strongest. There's no one who can beat him. By the end of this game, you will understand it. So, I understand that this was Dante's franchise, but when someone steps up and they become stronger than you and they show that they can handle a franchise and carry it on their shoulders, well, you might as well pass it to him. Let's not do what Dragon Ball did when Gohan, well, we felt that Gohan should have taken the mantle and he ended up giving it back to Goku. We don't need that. We don't need that. We understand how strong Nero is. His personality works. Johnny Young Bosch is the voice actor. Like, Nero, this is his franchise, and he's the best character. He just is. So, and next I have Nico. I think Nico was a dope addition. The country accent at first threw me off because of how thick it was, and I could tell that it was fake, but it grows on you. And once it's fully grown on you, you just forget about it, and you realize that Nico's actually awesome in like that annoying sister kind of way. Like, if you had an annoying sister, that's Nico for you, because her interactions with Nero are hilarious. I love it. Nico fits well in this universe, absolutely. Next on my list is Dante himself, the legendary devil hunter, the one who started it all, long hair, pretty boy Dante, slick talker. I enjoy playing as Dante because he has so many different weapons in his arsenal. But as far as Dante himself, he didn't do much for me in this game. And maybe it's because I don't have that history with him from the other games, and that's why everyone loves him so much. But for me, and playing as Nero so much in the game, and it's almost 50-50 between Nero and Dante. You can lean it in one direction more or the other depending on who you choose in some missions. But I just don't, he didn't rub off on me in the way that he rubs off on a lot of fans. He's okay. I enjoy him. I respect him, but that this was his franchise. But he's kind of like, every standard white action hero almost. They come with the quippy jokes and, the pretty boy face, and, that they can get the girl whenever they want. It's just like everyone else. He's like a Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds. He's like a Chris Pratt in Guardians. He's like a RDJ in the first Iron Man. And I'm not saying that Nero isn't that, but there's more to Nero than there is to Dante, especially in this game. After Dante, I got V. I didn't care for V and his little poems that he always speaks. He's always speaking poems in the game. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of you, V. And whenever I decide to talk spoilers on this game, I will get into why. But, V starts off as kind of sympathetic, but you will find out in the game he's really not. He's really not. And the last one I wrote here on my notes, but I actually can't say it without it being a spoiler. Some people won't be a spoiler because they knew this character was going to show up, but let's just say for the ones who have finished the game that character who showed up is not likable to me whatsoever. I don't like that guy. Now, one aspect of the game that I've heard a couple rumblings about was the treatment of the women, the female side characters in the game. Other than Nico, Trish and Lady don't really do anything. So if you're going into this game expecting some badass moments from Trish and Lady, you're not going to get it. And number two, something that came up was the fact that there's some scenes they have no clothes, and they're people said that they were used as props. I'm not going to go that far, but I will say that we should expect this from Japan. I'm not saying it's something that's right. I'm not saying it's something that they shouldn't change. But I'm just saying it's a whole nother culture. That's a different culture in Japan. They do this all the time. And you can't watch anime with all the fan service in it and then complain about this. Like, that's being hypocritical. You can't do that. If you watch anime with a lot of fan service or any fan service period and you don't complain about it when it happens, then you can't complain about it now, because you know what the culture is like, you know what Japan does, you know how they feel, you know what their creators do. I don't know why they do this. I don't have that answer for you, but that's what they do, and that's how Trish and Lady are treated. Trish is supposed to be one of the most badass characters in DMC, at least from what I'm reading, and she doesn't do anything, guys. I'm sorry. That's not a spoiler. I'm actually kind of warning you. She doesn't do anything in the game for you to get excited about. So, I hope he wasn't coming. I hope he wasn't coming in the game expecting that. But other than that, I just have to say that the Capcom is pretty much like back on business, man. Back on top, back in business, whatever you want to say. With this and Resident Evil 2 and all the stuff they did last year with like Monster Hunter World and everything, they are continuously crushing it now. They've learned from their past mistakes, and they're not going to let it happen again. So I'm glad that Capcom is wised up. You know, all the stuff they've been doing with Street Fighter and R5 and the arcade edition that technically wasn't even supposed to exist, but it actually worked out in its favor. Capcom is back on top, and Devil May Cry 5, it's a game that you do not have to play the other four in order to get into. You don't even have to be aware of the story at all. If you want, you can go into this game not knowing anything, and you won't know anything anymore coming out because it doesn't explain anything. So I guess the people who have played the other four games do have a leg up, but that didn't stop my enjoyment from this game. And that's why I can give the game a 9.5 out of 10. If it wasn't for a couple like characters getting fucking like fridged and stuff like that, and me not really caring for V as a character, and Dante not being the ultimate badass that, you know, he was hyped up to be, I much prefer Nero. Other than that, this is a fantastic game, and it hits on every level. It's damn near perfect. Like I said, it's a 9.5 out of 10. And I hope you guys go and play this game. You know, we need more awareness about it. I don't think there's as much awareness as we think there is, as we anticipate. Maybe now with all the high scores it's getting, but before it came out, I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't hearing the hype. You know, maybe it wasn't internet chat boards, but I don't get on those. So leave your comments down below about Devil May Cry 5. What did you think? Are you still playing the game? Are you ready for that DLC supposed to come out? Put down your thoughts, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I pardon my raspy voice. I am sick. I am fighting a cold. Okay? I'm sorry that I sound like shit. Alright. Go home. Take a bath. Don't smell like swamp butt. Goodbye.